This is a little extra tutorial about rendering, rendering in Maya, rendering your individual frames, and then taking them into another third-party program like After Effects to actually make a movie out of it. Now I have a simple little scene here that I've set up. It's just a little simple animation that I've got over here. We can look at it over in the camera view. I have added a render cam. I have created and brought in a render cam, which the view is over here, and I've put in some lights. So this is the render cam view, and I've kept the settings at 640 by 480, and you can change those according to what you want. And if we did a little test render here, you can see what individual renders would look like. So we want to set up the render settings, so we would go into Window, Rendering Editors, Render Settings, and I've already set up the render settings. Let's go into the Common tab here, and you will see there's a lot of information here that you need to pay attention to. First thing I have done is I have named what each individual render. I have a 130 frame animation here, so I'm going to, each one of those renders we're going to make 130 rendered frames, and I've named them balls here. The image format, that's pretty important. I like using Targas. You can use TIFFs, and you can use any kind of format that you want, JPEGs or whatever, but Targas are a good solid format for rendering out your final projects. Frame animation extension. This is really important. What this does is that it adds an extension to it, basically the file format and the number of each frame. And you want to make it the name, the number, and the extension. What this is going to do is that each render is going to have a number after it, and this is really important to keep your renders in order when you bring it into programs like After Effects. Okay, so now another thing that's equally important is frame padding. Basically what frame padding does is that if I'm going to have like 130 frames, it's going to start my number, and if you look up here, the file name, this is what the file name is going to look at. It's going to add zeros before the number 1. It's basically going to keep it a 3-digit number. And this is important because when programs like After Effects, if you don't do this, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but it's going to put 10 after 1 because it doesn't have this frame padding extension. So it's going to put 2 zeros before single-digit numbers. It's going to put 1 zero between double-digit numbers. And if it's 130 frames, it's just going to add, the 130, and it keeps all of your frame renders numbered in order. You want to put a frame range down here, start at frame 1 and at frame 130. That's pretty important. That defaults at 10, and a lot of times I've started renders and it's only rendered 10 frames. And you want to render it by 1 frame, so it's going to render every frame. This is useful for render farms, and if you're rendering on multiple machines, you can tell it to render every other frame or every 3rd frame. You want to tell it what camera to render, and I've made the render cam, so make sure that it is not on perspective, that is, it is on render cam. You make sure that you have the render size. I'm keeping it at the default 640 by 480, and you're going to make it in pixels here, and you can change your resolution and things like that. One other thing, and then you can also check and see if all of your information is correct up here. Notice that the renders, because I've set up a project file, I've set up a project folder, it's going to go to projects, the project name, and the images folder that comes into the project folder. And we'll take a look at that. Well, actually, we'll just take a look at it here. Here's my project folder, and here is the images folder, and you can see that I do have already some renders in there, which we're going to look at a little later. So also there's a couple of other settings that you can do. We're going to be rendering Maya software, and if we go into the Maya software tab, you can change the quality. If you're doing just quick renders, you can make it just preview quality, custom quality if you want to make it very, very high quality. I'm just going to put it at production quality and make the edge anti-aliasing highest quality. And then there's some other settings here that you can probably keep at default for now. So once I've got all that set, I want to save my scene, and then I go into the rendering tab, render, and then batch render. You just hit batch render, and when that happens, that's going to come up in this little command line or this little display line here. It's going to show you the renders in progress, and I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that now. But well, let's just do just a real quick one. So it's going to come up here. It's going to start rendering. It'll take a few minutes to do. It's just starting the render here, and in a second, yeah, you can see that it is actually making the renders, and it shows you the progress. So I'm just gonna cancel that batch render there because I've already rendered this.